This year's West Virginia Derby is Saturday, and I don't know if we're going to have any serious contenders for the Travers come out of Mountaineer on Saturday. But on the other hand, an interesting little race here at Mountaineer with the top two, Once on Whiskey and Draft Pick, coming out of an exciting finish in the Los Alamitos Derby.
Yeah, the West Virginia Derby at Mountaineer drew a field of 9. And why not? There's a $500,000 purse in there. They should draw some 3-year-olds in there. And most of the field comes from the Los Al Derby and the Iowa Derby. We've got the winners and the second place horses of both of those in there. The Los Al Derby was interesting because Once on Whiskey, for most of the race, was at the back of the pack and started to make a move, coming around the turn, was gaining kind of slowly, and it was one of those races in the stretch where I didn't really think that Once on Whiskey was going to get there, but slowly but steadily made his move and got the lead as they approached the wire. I don't know, Brian. I wasn't real impressed with the way the stretch run played out in there, so I might be leaning to horses that came out of the Iowa Derby, or for that matter, Rugby Man, which comes from the barn of Graham Motion, who was second in the Easy Goer.
Yeah, I like the horses out of Los Al. I think they do have a little bit of class edge here, and they're both interesting for different reasons. Once on Whiskey, that was his first time around 2 turns when he won the Los Al Derby. Talented runner, son of Bodemeister for Bob Baffert. And yeah, he kicked it in late to get Draft Pick, but I think Draft Pick had done some hard work in putting away Axeman and then opening up, and he couldn't finish it off. But Draft Pick, if you look, he's been really good lately. In fact, 2 races back, he beat Axelrod nicely, and Axelrod, of course, came out to win the Indiana Derby. So Once on Whiskey, Draft Pick for me. I think they are the horses to beat, but on the other hand, California horses shipping into Mountaineer Park, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Probably both of them will not run their best race. Draft Pick might be the more likely one, looking at his recent form and his ability to be in the pace, involved early in the race might be an advantage. But on the other hand, Once on Whiskey might have more potential to be a good one for trainer Bob Baffert. The horses you mentioned, Rugby Man, yeah, I was a little disappointed last time with his performance in the Dwyer. He was really not even a match for horses that were well behind Forenzi Fire. I guess he got 4th, but it was a ways back in that one. Not sure what to think if he can bounce back more like his Easy Goer performance. He is a threat, still lightly raced, it's on a Tappet. The Iowa Derby horses, High North is actually a horse I've liked for a while. But on the other hand, I feel like I know what High North is. He's just a good horse. He doesn't beat the best. His graded stakes opportunities have not been great. But away from graded stakes, he's done well. So a horse who probably will represent himself reasonably well in the West Virginia Derby. Might be overbet, though. And that's hard to say for Brad Cox, Florent Giroux combo horse because they've done so well. Lion Knight's had his chances, but maybe at high odds for Steve Asmussen. He's a horse that you could throw in the exotics. The horse I like best from Iowa is Mr. Freeze, who is another still lightly raced horse, and I thought he ran well in Iowa. Maybe he pops up as a horse who can beat one of the Californians, but my guess is the winner comes from the Los Al Derby.
Well, I'm going to go against you in here, Brian. I'm going to go for more of a price in here. Just for the reason that you said that California shippers don't always fare well, and especially going to a track like Mountaineer. So I'm going to go with Graham Motion and Rugby Man. I'm going to hope that Rugby Man didn't like the Saratoga track especially, and Motion's horses usually do ship around the country really well.
Good, Matt. Yeah, Rugby Man, horse with potential. I'd like to see you picking a horse with some odds. That's our West Virginia Derby preview, folks. It should be another great week. We're in the middle of summer here now, and we are enjoying the races from Saratoga, Del Mar, and all over the place, places like Mountaineer Park.
Hey, Brizzy. How you doing, Tommy?
How you doing, Jenny?
Good. Well, what were you looking for in attachment rate? What did you see out there?
Well, I was wanting to go 101 and 2, and he went 101 and 1, so it was perfect. Now I thought Faustino did a good job working. He looked great. He's full of energy. Looked like he came off the track happy. So 6 days away, we'll see.
Ever since he was second in the Ellis Park Derby, you were wanting to run this horse in there, but it was only recently that the ultimate decision was made. Talk about the factors that went into it. And
I mean, he's earned the right to go in. I think Mr. Baki, didn't want to just jump in. He wanted to make sure it was the right thing for the horse. And the way he's trained after the race, and especially the way he worked today, I think that he definitely deserves to be in there. He's a very live long shot.
How do you make up the difference on, say, an art collection?
I think the difference would be the mile and a quarter would be the biggest thing. I think he wants to do the mile and a quarter. I think he'll appreciate this long stretch here. And it's a different atmosphere, different race, different pace. We'll see what happens.
Have you looked at the PPs for the probables?
I haven't studied them. I mean, I watched most all the horses run through the year, and it's a good race. Got a good local connection, three people. I don't know. It's just a shame that the people aren't going to be here to see it.
Yeah, well, I mean, is it going to seem? You've been in a lot of derbies. Is it going to seem weird since you've been there with 150,000?
It's weird going over for a maiden 10 in the last race of the day with nobody over there. So definitely on Derby Day, it's going to be a lot different. But give me that little gold trophy, put the asterisk by my name, and I'll be happy.
Do you think there will be an asterisk by whoever wins this derby?
No, I mean, it's
good or bad,
it's different. But no, I think Derby's a derby. Everybody's pointing here. It'll be good for everybody.
Yeah, how different is it when you have it in September versus May? I mean, these horses are a lot more mature.
Right, and different horses are ready right now, and that's just nature. We may not have been in here without the extension, so I'm not going to complain about it.
That 'Tis the Law. I mean, a horse that was ready to go and would have been the favorite probably in May, and now still the favorite in.
Barkley's done a hell of a job keeping him around, and keeping him happy, and maybe there was something to miss in Breeders' Cup last year. But, he's definitely the horse to beat. He's got to stub his toe for any of us to beat him. On paper, none of us can.
Would you be surprised if attachment rate popped up and won?
I don't know if I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, he's a good horse. That's why we're in there, and I think there's a lot of factors going to go on a mile and a quarter. But just to win a derby, I'd be shocked.
What about his races? Like you said, he's always seems like he's had an excuse, or he's always trying.
He's knocking on the door every time, and he runs hard every time. He's run with the best in the race, and when he puts it all together, it's going to be it.
Looking ahead to next year's derby, which is only going to be 8 months away from now.
Right, 2 within 8 months.
Yeah.
They're both good horses. I mean, this is the time they start separating themselves in the fall. This has always been a key race for us, and we'll load them up and find out. Ultimate Badger, he's just been a machine ever since he's been with us. Ran a great race at Ellis, and then our Brody's Cause colt. I mean, being a son of Brody's Cause is a big deal, and he ran a beautiful race at Ellis, and I think distance is only going to help him.
Does it seem strange to be working on next year's derby even as you're working on this year's derby?
Everything about 2020 is strange. I'll be glad when we shut the door on this chapter 11.
They're off. Little Miss Macho had a bit of an awkward start.
My Wife Knows Everything broke well. Lady Mutata is up and on the pace. Rojo's Tune is out third. The Wife Doesn't Know fourth to the outside. And Eleni's Hope is fifth as they move for the first turn. On the far outside, Little Miss Macho is going up after that tardy start all the way up to battle with the leaders. On the lucky side is next. A ground-saving trip for Morningside Heights. Late for class in Miss Tallahassee are in the back of the field as Lady Mutata leads the way to the backstretch. And Little Miss Macho is second through a quarter of 24 2/5 seconds. Rojo's Tune third at the rail. And then comes My Wife Knows Everything and The Wife Doesn't Know, followed by Eleni's Hope on the inside, 5 off the lead. 2.5 to Late for Class. To the outside on the lucky side, Morningside Heights along the rail. Miss Tallahassee is last. The half was in 48 3. Past the half-mile pole. Lady Mutata by a length and a half. Little Miss Macho is in second. After that comes My Wife Knows Everything in third. On the far outside, The Wife Doesn't Know is moving up and is now fourth and right alongside of My Wife Knows Everything. My Wife Knows Everything and The Wife Doesn't Know are moving together on the far turn, and they're coming after Lady Mutata coming to the quarter pole. Lady Mutata in front. Here come My Wife Knows Everything and The Wife Doesn't Know on the far outside. Little Miss Macho is fourth. They're into the stretch. Lady Mutata, My Wife Knows Everything. Center of the track, The Wife Doesn't Know. Into the final furlong. My Wife Knows Everything. The Wife Doesn't Know. They're 1-2. Of course they are. My Wife Knows Everything in front. To the outside, The Wife Doesn't Know. My Wife Knows Everything. The Wife Doesn't Know. My Wife Knows Everything. More than The Wife Doesn't Know. Whew. Miss Tallahassee was third, and Morningside Heights was fourth.
Corona Cartel, the leading living sire of stakes winners, presents the ninth fastest qualifier, Elisa's Secret.
Through a series of circumstances, Elisa's Secret was away from the races since last September.
Well, we didn't get this filly till a couple months ago, and we had a few issues. We just couldn't get her ready, and every time we want to do something, we should have a little issue, an abscess in a foot or a temperature, just little bitty stuff.
But it was enough to prevent getting a prep race before the 440-yard trials.
They're running. Slight stumble from Elisa's Secret. Vancouver Moon came away fast, but just drifting for the outside fence and almost scrapes up against it. Vancouver Moon far side. Elisa's Secret straightens out, then it's Point Break Dash. Back along the inside, Take Me Down and Feature Mr. Perfect. Vancouver Moon, but very wide out, and here they come. Elisa's Secret. Point Break Dash goes on by. Point Break Dash.
Despite a fourth-place finish, Elisa's Secret makes the finals for owner Iris Alvarez.
She got lucky. You know, we drew a good heat, good part of the day. We got really lucky, but we'll take it. We're not going to take her out because she got lucky.
The daughter of No Secrets here and the Corona Cartel mare Ali Cartel was bred by Don Apodaca. Her 2012 races were all pretty good, and Wood sees a bright future.
We don't know if she can win this thing. She probably, you know, is not as good as some horses, but she will improve, and weirder things have happened, I'll say that.
And no doubt will again.
Now with 20 horses, there are horses that will be farther back or even a little closer than we think, depending on racing luck. Kentucky Derby, for good or for bad, certainly racing luck plays a big part in the Derby. But we've identified 4 categories of horses. I think, Matt, on my end, I expect a pace that's not crazy fast, but on the other hand is fast enough to make it a very fair race, especially at 1.25 miles. Would you agree with that assessment, sir?
I would, Brian. I think maybe we're going to get a little bit of a faster pace than we've had the last couple years.
Agreed. So let's start with the front runners, Matt. We've identified the 5 horses that we think are most likely to be up there on the lead. Now, we should say that there are certain horses who could be closer than we project here and could be farther. There are certainly horses that we're not quite sure on. But this is our best guess as what might unfold early in the Kentucky Derby. And I'm going to start, Matt, the front runners list with the horse I think most likely to be on the lead, and that's Promises Fulfilled.
Yeah, promises fulfilled. Certainly, that's what he's got to do to go to the lead. And as Brian was saying, I think the post position draw will be a factor in where horses end up. I'm not usually a big guy with post position, but in the Derby, you have to pay attention to it. Front runners are so important in determining the way the race plays out. Since the year 2000, only one front runner, only one horse has won the Derby gate to wire every step of the way, and that was War Emblem.
Absolutely. It's tough to do. And if we're right, Promises Fulfilled is on the lead, we don't see another War Emblem scenario here. Now, there are going to be a lot of horses chasing this horse from the Dale Romans barn early. Among them, we see the most likely to be Bravazzo, another long shot. Flame Away, the consistent horse from Marcassi barn. And then we have two of our big favorites, Matt, Justify from Bob Baffert and Mendelssohn, partly because of what he did in the UAE Derby, we think will be at least pressing this pace.
That from what they've done in the past, it certainly seems that that's the way they're going to run. The Derby is such a special thing, especially with these inexperienced horses. A horse like Justify has never been in a big field like this, and the energy and that the horses get from running in the pack and the pace can turn a relaxed horse into a horse that gets into the bit and wants to compete. So that's one of the kind of big questions that Brian and I have about Justify. The Kentucky Derby is not a relaxed scenario for horses, so it's going to be interesting to see how Justify and how Mendelssohn deal with that situation.
Right, and being on or near the lead in the Kentucky Derby is not necessarily a bad thing by any means, because if you're there, it means that there has to be really good rallies coming from behind. But what Matt and I are both saying is there should be some speed in here. Promises Fulfilled, and then each other, Justify, Mendelssohn, not to mention Flame Away, Bravazzo, and maybe a few others. We didn't even mention 170,000 screaming fans, Matt. So there's added pressure, there's added adrenaline, all of the above. Should be a test for the big horses like Justify and Mendelssohn. And as we look at stalkers, we put Magnum Moon on the stalker list, Matt, just because I think he might have shown the ability to sit off the lead a little bit more. But he's another one of the favorites that could be very close to this early pace. So as we go into the stalker list, our second category, Magnum Moon tops it.
Yeah, Brian, Magnum Moon is an interesting horse because in the Arkansas Derby, Magnum Moon went out onto the lead, but that was a whole different situation where there was a soft pace. So I also expect Magnum Moon to be running a little bit behind the pace setters in here. And this stalker group is really important to talk about, Brian, because the last four Kentucky Derby winners have all been horses that have come off the pace a little bit. And since the year 2000, 8 of the Derby winners have been stalkers.
Yeah, and we have a pretty compact group here. While we think any of them are eligible to be a little closer than I guess it would be 6th early, they also could be a little farther back. Magnum Moon, you're right, Matt, has shown the ability to run a few different running styles. So we expect him to be a little bit off the lead. Noble Indy is another horse who likes to be close to the lead, not on the lead. So we put him in the stalker list. Hasn't run since the Louisiana Derby, but certainly a talented horse. And then there's a couple others that were stalkers mid-pack. I think they might be a little closer here. Solimini, the enigmatic Solimini, and then Enticed, who's been a consistent horse, has a stakes win at Churchill Downs for trainer Karen McLaughlin.
Yeah, and that is an interesting group, and the way they run, I guess, is going to be determined by the, what happens out of the starting gate. So all this position stuff is such an important part of the way the Derby plays out.
And then we have a very interesting next group, Matt. It's a big group. We call it the mid-pack group. And in the Derby, that means you could be as far back as 14th or something here. But these are horses who like to make a little bit of rally, but they're not deep closers by any means. One horse on the list I should mention, we went back and forth a little bit whether he was mid-pack or a real closer, and that's Hofberg. And he's so inexperienced it might be too early to tell, but we have him in the mid-pack group along with some of the big names again, Bolt Doro, Good Magic, and Audible, horses we like for the Kentucky Derby, Matt. They want to be 10th and 12th early. Sounds like that's far back, but in the Derby, that's just middle of the pack, and they want to make their move on the turn. A lot of Kentucky Derbies have been won this way.
They certainly have, and these are the kind of horses the jockeys at the beginning of the race are really simply going to be looking to get their horses out of the gate, find a nice, comfortable position, get their horses to relax, and that is such an important thing in the race because they're going 10 furlongs. None of them have ever gone 10 furlongs. It's a big question for all of them, so the riders that can get their horses to relax and start conserving a little energy while all these other horses that we mentioned are running hard on the bit and are competing and using up energy. Mid-pack is a good place to be in the Kentucky Derby.
Mid-pack is a good place to be. A strong pace is a good thing for them. And racing luck in this big field, of course, plays a huge part. Other horses we have listed as the mid-pack bunch, Matt, include Combatant, also Free Drop Billy, Instilled Regard, some of those 40-1 shots that could get into the Super possibly, as we talked about before. And then Forenzi Fire, a horse who wants to make a little rally, but we worry about at 10 furlongs. So that list was deep, Matt. I'm going to go over them real quick again. Hofberg, we could have put him in the late runner group, but we have him in the mid-pack. Then Combatant, Audible, Good Magic, Free Drop Billy, Instilled Regard, Forenzi Fire, and Bolt Dora, all horses hoping to make that middle move and be right there as the field turns for home in the Kentucky Derby. And last but not least, Matt, we have the late runners, and it's tough to come from way back in the Kentucky Derby. But if you get a good pace and a good trip, sometimes the Derby at 10 furlongs, just the sheer distance of this race sets up for horses who can come from well back. We certainly don't think these will be 18, 19, and 20 early, but these are the horses we've identified as the most likely to be in the back third of the pack, and they include the horse I'm most interested in betting, Matt, and that's Vino Rosso.
Yeah, and it's not that this hasn't happened before. We go back to 2013, and Orb was one of those horses who was in the back of the pack at the race, and it turned out to be a contentious pace. It was an interesting race where the pace setters all faded and ended up finishing towards the rear of the pack, and the horses that were at the back of the pack relaxing were the ones that had the run at the end of the 10 furlongs and hit the wire in front, Orb being one of them. Again, that overall field was not of the quality of this field. I don't really expect all of the horses that are at the front of this Kentucky Derby to fade to the back. I think, and I'm sure Brian feels this way too, some of these horses are going to be competing at the end.
Absolutely, and we're talking about the winning position here a lot because everybody wants to win the Kentucky Derby, the connections and handicappers alike. But I think these horses offer real value underneath as well. So none of them will be among the single-digit runners, but all three of them, we have Vino Rosso, My Boy Jack, and Lone Sailor, offer good value if you think they can get all the way up there to win the race. But also, these are horses that often hit the board. Derby winners don't often come from way back, but often you have horses hitting the board. Looking at Lee last year, for example, who have come from quite a way back. So think about that when you're filling out the bottom spots in your exotics. My Boy Jack, the consistent rallier, and Lone Sailor, who ran a big race in the Louisiana Derby and seems to like Churchill Downs. Those are the three we have in the late runner slot, Matt.
Yeah, and like you said, Brian, the trifectas and the superfectas historically in the Kentucky Derby have paid really big numbers. That's even with the favorite being in one of the other spots, in first or second or third. You get one of those 30-1 shots in one of those spots, and there's big money.